when I'm going to do it, but at some point before I get to that 100 years of mine, I am going to be doing the 100 miles. So that's something that's staged just in the back of my mind, that I would like to finish that series of things. And but nothing too soon, because I've got lots of other things on fitness-wise that I'd like to do. Now, another thing that I did was stay fit during my pregnancies. My first child I had when I was 18, and I did gain a lot of weight back then. Because she was the first grandchild that was coming, I received a lot of attention from the whole family. And I just felt like a royal baby was coming, like, we see in the media now. I got wonderful attention. I got lots of food given to me, lots of love. And I really gained a lot of weight. And I think back then I didn't realise that you're not eating for two. So at the end of that first pregnancy that I had, I gained 65 pounds. So all the weight I'd lost in grade 11, 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later, even more went on. So I had to really, really focus and dedicate myself back to the gym so that I could get that weight off. And I did succeed in doing that within the first year. And again, that's what got me really into my personal training side of things as well. Then throughout my next pregnancy, I didn't have another pregnancy for 10 years. So I have a 10-year gap between my first and second. And I had the most amazing pregnancy with my next daughter that was born. Fitness, great, worked out right up until the day before. I knew what to do. So I didn't give up exercising. I knew what to eat. And, 10 years later, I knew that you didn't have to eat for two. So I had a different type of energy throughout this pregnancy. I was still eating really, really well. And a little extra food, of course, because I like to tell people that, you're growing a baby. So you have to eat a bit more. But I was really, really, careful on that second time around. And then the third one I had 5 years later. So I have a 25-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So I have them quite spread out throughout that time. And I've exercised, like I say, through the pregnancies, felt really, really good. And I've got back into the gym very, very soon after I've had the babies. And I want you to think about that. A lot of the time you go, I'm going to go back after 6 months or a year, or when I'm feeling good. What suited me was to go back into the gym environment and just get into the room. Just get into the room. It didn't mean I had to run on the treadmill. It didn't mean I had to lift the heaviest weight. It just meant I had to get back into the environment. And I have so many times called the gym my happy place. And, it really has been really from a young age for me, and especially since I've worked in that environment for a long time. Then, of course, when I went on to do more one-to-one, I came out of the gym environment and went into more homes and then had my own gym studio instead. So I just think that it was so easy for me to be in that environment. So for me to go back after my pregnancies, it was really, really important for me to get into the swing of things again. Get my children used to being in childcares as well from a young age, and just having that time away so they knew that their mum could do what she needed to do for the self-care that I had to do. All of my children have been born on a Saturday night in the evening, and definitely for the last two. And for the first pregnancy, I didn't join the gym again until she was 5 weeks old. But the other two, I went back 9 days later. So I have the week at home, and then I go back. Now, I'm not going up and beyond at day 9. I'm just walking on that treadmill, going on that bike. And I luckily have had very, very, very good labours, quick labours, felt great afterwards, gone home, took the baby home safe and sound, and done really, really well in my recovery. So I've gone back really, really quickly into my fitness regime after the babies. So that's what I wanted to put across. I know tonight I'm talking a lot about my personal side of things, but I get asked so many questions about different areas of my life that maybe you don't see on my social media or I don't share with that. And one thing that, I guess one of the questions, since I'm talking family, is one thing I get asked quite a lot about is why my family is private on social media. I know it says I'm married with 3 children, but you don't ever see that side of my life. And I think that was, I didn't do social media for the first 10 years. So you didn't see me on Facebook for the last 12 years. And Instagram, I've just actually been doing for less than a year. And I've actually been doing Facebook for 2 years. So I had a very, very active life throughout those 10 years. Definitely I did. But I didn't do any social media. I guess I was very face-to-face with people. And since I'm a people person, I didn't see the benefits of social media, obviously, until I'm on it now and I love it. And, my closest friends would tell me that, you're going to love social media. And I'd be like, no, I like real people. So that's what I did. So when I decided to come onto social media 2 years ago and, talk about what I was passionate about and, promote what I was doing and just talking to people that had an interest in what I had to say, and get my message out there about positive thinking and creating a life that you love and being happy and planning your life out and doing things that, kind of put a spring in your step. It felt really great to be on social media. But one thing I want to do is just keep my family private, because I felt like since I'd got, that private life for so long, I wanted to keep it so that it was up to my daughters to be more exposed on social media should they wish to be later on. And I didn't want to put my children all over that. And I know it's a choice some people make, because I know some parents do have their children everywhere on there. But for me, from my personal level, my family's level, and a discussion, with my husband was that, we didn't want the family on social media. It really was going to be me that was having the interest in doing that. So just when you see, I do have 3 children. No, you don't see them anywhere. I think perhaps as they get older and create their own lives and create what they want to do on social media, I guess there would be that part of what they want to do. But I didn't want to really expose them as part of what I was doing. So that's why I keep my family private in my social media. So I don't need to go over that one again. Well, I can at some point, but I know a lot of people have asked me about that. We don't see your family or anything, but they're there, tucked away. And you see a lot of photographs of me everywhere as well. A lot of the times I do have separate photographs of the family at the same time, but you see the ones of me that go onto my Facebook. Okay, so I moved to Canada in 2000. I know I talked about that at the beginning. And it was my millennium move. I had been to Canada 9 times on holiday. And I hadn't moved here. I loved it. I came during the summer holidays. And it was great. I met some great friends here. I started to create that life in Canada, but loved England. And it was in 1999 that on my 9th holiday, I agreed that I would move to Canada. My husband asked me for the 9th time again to move to Canada. And I did on my 9th visit out here. And it's actually been an amazing move for me. It's when you come somewhere and you've got a positive attitude and you've moved from a country that's so different. It's so different to live in Canada than it is in England. And I had a great job. I had wonderful friends, very close family. But my instinct told me that the best thing for me to do was to move to Canada and just see what that would be, like for us as a family, what it would be like for me. And I have to say, I look different, I sound different, and I am different. And because my dad instilled so much power into that little girl, I felt like nothing could change me being who I was wherever I went. So wherever I went, I was friendly and I was kind, and I just tried to get in with new people and introduce myself and go in and think that, what would my dad want me to do here? And I know that my dad would say, darling, just go in there, meet people, be yourself. And one thing he always said was have good manners. Now, I have to say, the 26-year-old Sarah Shakespeare versus the 44-year-old Sarah Shakespeare, honestly, I do think a bit quicker now before I speak than I did when I was 26. So I do think I had good manners still, but I do think that perhaps I spoke a little bit swift in my earlier years. But that's because I've been really raised to speak my mind and but do it in a nice delivered way. So do it in a nice way. So when I moved to Canada, I worked in the gym environment when I got here. I met some great people here. And yeah, I just got used to so much beautiful scenery. I think that's what spoilt me traveling around Canada. And for the first 9 years, I lived in Alberta, which was extremely cold. I didn't even realize that there was lots of beautiful things everywhere else. I just knew that it was cold there. I knew BC was hotter, but I also knew it got cold there as well. So I didn't quite get the shine of BC into my mind until 2009, when I moved to Kelowna in BC, which I happily call my dream destination. It is my dream destination to live. It has everything here that I could ever wish for, whether it's shopping, whether it's scenery, it's friends, it's my family. I've been very, very lucky this last year to be traveling to different places, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And, every time I'm flying back into Kelowna, I look out the plane and I think, I'm back. Because if you look into the Okanagan and you look at where I live, there are so many wonderful things to do here. So even though I go to wonderful places like Miami and I get to go to, I went to Beverly Hills 2 years ago. I've been to Hollywood. There's all these amazing places that I go to. And while I'm there, I go, oh my goodness, I love it. I'm really happy where I live in Canada. And I think if you're happy where you live, You can travel to a ton of places and just come back and still live happy within your environment. It's if you don't like where you live that it becomes very difficult when you travel to actually not want to keep moving somewhere else. So I've really found my place. I think I've really found that, British Columbia, if you look at the registration plates, it says beautiful British Columbia, and I have to say it really is. So for me, I'm very, very lucky to have found my dream destination to live. And I do love to go back to my hometown when I'm in England. I really do. It feels very familiar to me. But it's also very easy for me to come back to Canada because I've been coming here for a long time, and for more than half my life I've been traveling here. So it's, it's become home to me. So it's good. And although, as you can see, I'm not even talking like a Canadian yet, and I don't think I'm going to be, but, I really feel at home here. I've made some great friends. My family like it here. And any of my family and friends that have come to visit from England as well, have really liked it here and everything that we do here. So what I've done in Canada as well is really, really try to travel around to different places here so I can really see what is offered here. So if you haven't been to Canada, if you're listening from somewhere else, then, try it. There's so many things here. Where I live, I feel like I live in the Miami of Canada. It's so hot in the summer. It's beautiful. It gets extremely busy in here in the summer. It's a very touristy area during the summer, which I don't mind because I think that let everybody come here for 3 months. Let them come because they haven't got the privilege of living here for the other 9 months like we have. So if you ever, anyone who's here who tries to complain that there's too much traffic in the summer, I can't engage in that conversation because I just think, okay, let's just take a bit longer to get somewhere. Or as locals, we do know our shortcuts, which, Siri doesn't take you on for the people that are visiting. So, we do manage to kind of get to our places in the end. So that's a bit more about that. What I've been doing in the last few years is I've been public speaking. And I really, really love to get my message out there and what I believe is going to help people create a great life. One of the main keynote speeches that I've been doing over the last year or so is how having a positive mindset, self-care and ambition can create a life that you love. So for me, it's really, really important that self-care becomes a big deal to you in your life. And we have this phrase that says, oh, you're so full of yourself. And I love that phrase, you're so full of yourself, because I have this whole concept about having a full glass attitude about life. So when you say, well, is your glass half empty or half full? For me, I say that you're lucky to have a glass. And when I say that in my keynote speeches, people really have that light bulb moment. It's not even a light bulb moment. It's like a chandelier moment where you go, oh my God, all these lights are lighting up for me now. I'm lucky to have a glass. So for me, I'm so big into gratitude and how everything should be. If you can't just see these amazing things in life, you need to sit down, you need to think, you need to get somebody close to you and say, hey, I'm really struggling right now. I'm not really sure what I should be grateful for. And honestly, it will take them a few minutes to say, what about this? What about that? And, when you're full of yourself, honestly, you can give back to others. So that's the positive concept that I mean to say it in. Like, when you say you're full of yourself, yes, you have to be full of yourself. Because if you're empty and can't do anything, how can you help your family, your friends? How can you work? How can you grow businesses? How can you be energetic? How can you have your free time and enjoy that free time? So you have to be full of yourself. So just think, what does that mean to you? What does it mean for you to have energy? What's your self-care that you want to engage in each day? You really have to think about how that works for you. So when I'm going through my keynote speeches, I have a look at the audience that I'm going to ahead of time. I always know where I'm going to be speaking, and I really adapt my speeches towards the people that are listening. But a lot of times it's just about positive communication, really, really positive communication, and giving people ideas on how they can live that life that they want to create. Because, I talk about having, the 100-year plan. And, people say to me, well, why do you want to live, what's the 100-year plan, Sarah? I say, I have this absolute desire to meet my great-grandchildren. Because in the last 44 years, I've seen so many things that have come up and have been created. And you've seen, and all the changes that you see, I can't even imagine what's going to happen in the next 56 years. And I think, I engage in good health practices constantly. So anything that is risky for me, such as skydiving, walking too close